what's happening to generations right now. The mind control is real, and our desire to fit in or to look a certain way because it's been indoctrinated into us that this is what beauty is. Someone who we're trying to attract is going to like us or think we're valuable or we have something to offer is insanity.
Okay, guys, Chervin back on the show.
It's good to be back here,
Yeah,
Sean.
you've been busy, man.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride for the Symbiotica organization.
Congrats on the raise that just got announced.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just talking to my partner Shahab, and we're just really thankful that the mission we're on is really being received out there, and we got some epic people that are now part of Symbiotica, and I think that was the whole genesis of why we did that.
Yeah.
So exciting, and we're ready to pump out some really epic stuff.
Yeah, you guys have the Target launch, right?
Yep. Target launched a few weeks ago. December is going to be our main path forward with Target. Very excited about that. They're a great partner. And it just means, more people that might not have known the brand are going to see Symbiotica.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting for me.
I love it, man. I'm a customer. Before we even met, I was a customer. I really like the quality.
Quality is everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I know we're going to talk a little bit today about the supplement industry and what's really going on under the scenes. And from my vantage point, being a founder and chief science officer of Symbiotica, so I'm excited to get into the depths of that.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it because as someone that can afford, being proactive, I guess, with their health, when I buy supplements, I only buy stuff that's third-party tested.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and third-party testing is just the most basic way to understand the credibility of a brand and what their ethos is. And, the whole supplement industry has become the Wild West. There's really no legitimate governing body that's regulating how these products are made, where these raw materials are coming from. I would say 95% of the brands out there are just marketing companies that use a third party and they slap their label on it, and no one's really doing any due diligence. I know this firsthand because I've been in the industry for so long.
Right.
And my position, with Symbiotica was we were going to create something that was so authentic, so transparent, and really raise the bar. And it wasn't about competing with any other brand out there. It was really competing with ourselves. Some of our top SKUs, I've rebuilt those formulas almost 10 times.
Jeez.
And what that shows you is that it's constantly getting better, constantly evolving, never feeling comfortable. And the last 2 years especially, I've been in the lab with my team. It's been all research and development, all hands on deck, and we're really coming out with some epic stuff right now. So again, we're not trying to point fingers at everyone and tell them how they're doing it wrong. We're just really trying to ignite knowledge and really activate the consumer so the consumer demand is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think consumers are getting almost like distrustful of certain health brands, right?
Of course, as they should be. You have a responsibility when you have a brand. These are things that people are not only spending their hard-earned money, but they're putting it into their bodies, they're putting it into their children's bodies, and they're taking it not because it's trendy, they're taking it because they want to feel better and they want to get back to homeostasis. We live in a crazy world right now, and ultimately, should we be having supplements? No, we should be having the healthiest food on earth.
Yeah.
But the food systems have become almost fringe, and we can go into those depths, and those conversations have been had many times over.
Right.
But we're in a situation right now that if you can create high octane supplements transparently with very thoughtfulness and science backed, you're giving people an opportunity to really expand their health.
Yeah. So as someone watching this as a consumer, other than third-party testing, what should they be looking for? Say they're trying to buy some creatine or vitamin C online.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'll just take those two products, for example, vitamin C. Most vitamin C on the market is coming from GMO corn. They take GMO corn, they turn it into ascorbic acid, and then they sell you a certain
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, most of
GMO corn?
GMO corn. Now, I can understand why they do that because they're going after a margin, right? And vitamin C is very competitive because every brand out there sells vitamin C.
Right.
But most of that vitamin C, not only could it be, undigestible, not bioavailable, coming from weird sources, and maybe doing more harm than good, most of it's not really explained to the consumer how it works and how it functions. The margins on that material is insane. We're talking about this, these are like derivatives of, the petroleum industry and, some weird manufacturing
Yeah.
process. Symbiotica, not only are we making liposomal vitamin C, but ours comes from a fermentation process from cassava. And the reason that why we do that, now let me tell you, it's a lot more expensive for us. Our margins are compressed. We're probably got the highest compression of margins in the industry. We're
Wow.
basically no margins, and it's tough. But we made a decision in the beginning that it's all about transparency, and we're going to build a strong community, and that's how we're going to do this. We're not a pump and dump group. We're not an Amazon business. We're a core ethos, brand value, identity, organization. And so that's just one example. We use fermented cassava. That's how we get our ascorbic acid. We do a unique blend, combining that with sodium ascorbate. And we have all these different active forms of bionutrients combined to make liposomes and make it 100% bioavailable. That's just one facet of what we do. You just asked me about creatine.
Yeah.
All of the material on the market is basically creatine that's coming from, overseas, from somewhere that you don't recognize. And we have made liposomal creatine, the first of its kind. You're holding it right now in your hand.
Yeah, I'm about to take this.
And that has not been released. That's going to be released in January. And let me tell you about creatine, and how valuable creatine is, because everyone's talking about it now. It's not just for gym bros.
Yeah.
It's not just for getting that last rep. Creatine converts into creophosphate in the body. Now we know that ATP is the energy currency of the body, adenosine triphosphate. When you are under stress, when you're in movement, when you're training, ATP turns to adenosine diphosphate. So you lose a phosphate group. Creatine helps provide and replenish another phosphate to bring that back up. That's extremely important for your brain, for your cardiovascular system, for your energy, for your skin, everything. Creatine is a universal compound, probably the most studied compound in the world. The problem with generic creatine monohydrate is that it doesn't break down properly. It clumps. It's got a crystalline form. That's why a lot of people get bloating from it.
Yeah.
It's undesired effects, and that becomes a problem. What we decided was we were going to not only make liposomal creatine, which protects the creatine and makes it into the gut properly, but we were going to get a patent pending form from Europe. Okay. And now let's talk about margins again. This is 7 to 10 times more expensive for us than regular creatine.
Wow.
Just think about those numbers. Most people can't comprehend that. But it was the only way to make a soluble version in liposomes, because creatine, standard creatine, you put it around liquid, you put it around water, breaks down almost instantly to creatinine, which is a byproduct of creatine. And what does that do? It just turns into kidney issues.
Damn.
And you don't even absorb the value of the creatine. So that product that you have right there, that is made of only organic compounds, phosphatidylcholine, and pure CreaBev, which is the patent pending form of creatine, is the most soluble, pH protected form of creatine on the market. It's never been done before. We're going to take that into clinicals. I'm so hyped. How does that taste?
Good, man. You make it so easy. That's why I love your products too.
Well,
Like my glutathione, I take like this.
There's no weird preservative systems.
Yeah.
It's all organic terpenes in there. We don't use natural flavors. We don't hide behind the guise of natural flavors. We don't use any chemical synthetics. We don't use potassium sorbate as a preservative. We don't use any dyes. We don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
That right there is
Tastes
literally fuel for your brain, for your skin, for your nervous system. Creatine is one of my favorite compounds. I have my mom on that product.
Wow.
So valuable. And, it's one of the pillars of health. Mitochondria, ATP, inflammation, insulin sensitivity. These are all factors that are at the pillars of a happy, healthy life.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people are starting to care about health. Reverse aging is a hot term right now. Guys like Brian Johnson and Dave Asprey talk about it. Do you believe that you can actually reverse aging?
I do. Yeah. I actually think, aging, we now know, is a form of disease. Like
really?
Aging actually is almost like a phenomenon that can either be a healthy life cycle or it can be extremely accelerated. And because of our disconnection from nature, our disconnection from all the things that make us human, those accelerations are happening. And then you throw in the fact that we're basically, we've been removed of all the proper nutrients. Now we're unstable. Throw in emotional health, fear, now social media, all the algorithmic stuff. Ask Brian Johnson about algorithms and you'll understand. I actually had a very healthy debate with him at his house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He invited me over for dinner with a lot of famous people.
Oh, the Don't Die dinner?
That's right. Don't Die dinner. And me and him were probably going back and forth for about an hour and a half while everyone was around us.
I love that.
And it was a very interesting conversation. And I actually like Brian. I have a different philosophy than him. But I understand that there are certain things that we can do now that will give us a lot of extension in life, not only living longer, but feeling better, looking better, performing better. I'm more about human potential as opposed to this like extension, because you never know what can happen. Yeah. I want to get to my max of what my abilities are physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm actually just coming off like a 40-day, very low caloric load throughout the last 40 days.
Wow.
I've lost 25 pounds,
Holy
actually,
crap.
which is really interesting. I cut my calories from, 1,800, 2,000 to like 400 a day.
That's nothing.
Yeah. It's
average person, I just found out, in America eats 3,500 calories a day.
Yeah. It's depending on where in the country too, it's probably spikes, but yeah, 3,500 seems to be standard. And it's not only, and that 3,500 is not coming from like nutrient dense foods.
Right.
It's just like, derivatives of foods and, weird raw materials that are coming from a massive industry. So I've literally lost 25 pounds over the last 40 days. And it's been one of those things that I do it every season. I'm starting that process, and less is more, especially with, what we put in our body. I'm very like particular with that, but I feel really good mentally, emotionally, physically. Those things are really at a high level right now. I'm ready to start back on my caloric load. I'm going to start getting back into the my exercising and things of that nature. But the last 40 days, I've taken about 23 pounds off.
Jeez. So you weren't exercising at all those 40 days?
Walks,
light
things
exercise.
like that. Yeah, I haven't been hitting the gym or hitting weights. I've been doing like, some air squats, kettlebell, stuff like that. But I just wanted to give my body a rest. Yeah. And we're coming off like a summer. Summer was the time of Jing energy. Like you're just explosive. You're eating a lot more food. It doesn't get dark till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Right now it's like starting to get dark at 4 p.m. Right? It's a completely different life cycle. And so I'm really big on seasons and understanding the season, not only with food, but with my lifestyle, with my energy expenditure. Right now it's been a little bit more about creativity. I've been in the lab a lot, really focusing on the new products that are coming out on Symbiotica. And it's just one of those things that if you understand how autophagy and mitophagy work in the human body and how valuable it is to give yourself some time off from food, this is, could be one of the cornerstones of a gateway of someone to get healthy again.
Interesting. So you're almost mimicking what our prehistoric ancestors did with the seasons, right?
That's right.
Because they wouldn't eat as much in the winter.
That's right. Yeah. You're not moving as much. You're more indoors. You're more. It's colder. These are certain things. I find that living by cycles gives me breakthroughs in life.
Wow.
I'm very like cognizant that if we're just doing the same thing all the time, how can we actually have these really powerful breakthroughs? But if we're changing things up a little bit, looking at things differently from a emotional perspective, from a worldview perspective, we're able to have certain breakthroughs and those aha moments that can activate us into triumphant wins.
100%.
And that's like, anything else. If you want to break through a plateau, you got to get uncomfortable. And one of those uncomfortable ways is caloric restriction, which is a hormetic principle. That which does not kill you makes you stronger, more resilient. That's why, we jump in cold rivers. That's why we go into 180-degree traditional saunas. That's why we hang upside down. We do those things. We sprint. We do the Norwegian 4x4, right? Where we're, maxing out 80, 90% of our VO2 for, 3.5, 4 minutes. These are things that push the body to tell the system we want to stay alive. And so if you're just sitting around, if you're stagnant, if you're caught up in the same mundane, your nervous system is going to wire you that way. Your vagus nerve, which is your 10th cranial nerve, is going to is not going to be calibrated to be able to equip you with certain things to expand and to relax. And these are really important factors, especially with the chaotic lives we're living today.
Yeah. So it's almost like comfortability is the enemy.
That's right. But there's a time for rest, but you can't get too comfortable. If you get too comfortable, then you get lost.
Right.
You know, we need to be like, we got to be growing our food. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous to some people and things like that, but these things, these actions, great success stories.
Yeah.
And then you get prized for it. You know what I mean? Like, it's really important.
Yeah,
it's a reward system.
Yeah. No, we started a garden last year. We got rid of our microwave. We feel way better.
Let's go.
Shower filters. The water in Vegas is terrible.
I think we talked about that on the last podcast.
Yeah.
That, one of the most important things you can do is to invest in a shower filter, because it's not only the water you're drinking, it's the water you're bathing in.
Yeah.
Right? All the vapors, the trihalomethanes, the compounds. We don't have to go down that list, but it's a chemical cocktail soup, and you're breathing it in, right? You're not only absorbing it through the skin, but it's getting into the lungs, through the alveoli, and then hitting the blood supply. The fastest way of getting a poison, a drug into the body is through the lungs.
Yeah.
That's why, this whole LA fire situation, the Palisades fires, all the, that was not a forest fire. That was a chemical soup, cocktail, explosion, runaway, disgusting fire that expanded out, and basically we're burning lithium batteries and benzones and all these other compounds. Hydrogen fluoride is being released, all these different things, heavy metals, and these people are sitting there breathing all that stuff in. It's kind of like what happened with World Trade Center.
Yep.
That post World Trade Center, all of those things that they're breathed in, these immediately embed into the tissues of the body, and it's almost impossible to get a lot of that stuff out.
Really, even through sauna?
Oh yeah, I mean, sauna, you'd have to go into advanced chelation therapy, IV chelation.
Wow.
Your lymph systems have to be cleared. I mean, it's a whole process.
Jeez.
Same thing with mercury issues today, methyl mercury, and the whole thing with oral mercury in the mouth, metal in the mouth, what that does to the brain, what it does to the nervous system, what it does to the vagus nerve, again, which is a branch of proteins and wiring. It's almost like fiber optics, right? The vagus nerve is so sensitive, and the myelin sheath is like a jelly substance that protects those nerves. Well, things like mercury, which turns into methyl mercury in the body, is basically like a hot razor blade. And think of your fibers, the tubes, as butter. It just basically cuts through all of that stuff. And that's why people have dysregulated nervous systems. That's why, they have POTS, where they stand up and their heart rate explodes. Their HRV is down. They can't get proper sleep rest. They can't digest foods properly, because you have to be in a parasympathetic state to properly digest food. I mean, I can go on and on and on. There's so much to unpack here. I definitely want to, I wanted to come here today and make it relatively simple, because there's so much noise out there.
There is.
That's another thing. And the advent to AI now, and social media and AI, it's like, oh my God, I can't even comprehend what I'm listening to anymore. It's like people are just basically like verbatim reading AI scripts now.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did we get here? And like, we called it. Remember our last podcast, year and a half ago, I mentioned to you that Rudolf Steiner, he basically said that Atherman, which is the entity of materialism, will come into form through AI.
Yep.
And it will reduce the human evolution, and we'll become copycats of ourselves, regurgitating the same stuff just for some type of affirmation, which is false anyways. And, you asked me about some other weird stuff about physical appearances and stuff like that. We're really in that age right now where we have to take a step back, take a deep breath, really look at the landscape and go, what the fuck are we doing?
No, it's nuts right now.
Yeah,
dude. Social media is creating some monsters out of people.
It really is.
Yeah, so right now, you might not have seen this trend, but they call it looks maxing, and there's this guy named Clavicular who is just blowing up. But basically, he does bone smashing on his face. He's getting the surgery to improve add 4 inches to his height, where they break your shins, add 4 inches, because he's
What's his name?
Clavicular. You'll start seeing him now that I've said it. But basically, he's performing all these surgeries because it's all about looks. And a lot of these young guys are getting impressioned by this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dangerous spiral.
Yeah, and he's also on and he advocates for this. He's on what's that acne medicine? That Accutane.
He's on Accutane. Wow.
And he's promoting that.
Which is, basically destroying his brain and his liver.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the last thing he should be worried about. This is scary times, because what's happening to generations right now? The mind control is real. And our desire to fit in or to look a certain way, because it's been indoctrinated into us that this is what beauty is, and this is how the someone who we're trying to attract is going to like us or think we're valuable or we have something to offer, is insanity.
Shout out to today's sponsor, Quince. As the weather cools, I'm swapping in the pieces that actually gets the job done, that are warm, durable, and built to last. Quince delivers every time with wardrobe staples that'll carry you through the season. They have fall staples that you'll actually want to wear, like the 100% Mongolian cashmere for just $60. They also got classic fit denim and real leather and wool outerwear that looks sharp and holds up. By partnering directly with ethical factories and top artisans, Quince cuts out the middleman to deliver premium quality at half the cost of similar brands. They've really become a go-to across the board. You guys know how I love linen and how I've talked about it on previous episodes. I picked up some linen pants and they feel incredible. The quality is definitely noticeable compared to other brands. Layer up this fall with pieces that feel as good as they look. Go to quince.com/DSH for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. They're also available in Canada too.
That hijacks the moral ground. And when the moral ground is hijacked, then you have no desire to become a complete version of yourself. What is a complete version of yourself? How you show up for community, how you show up for your family, what good you're bringing to the world, what value you're bringing to the world. Imagine a portion of the population, or a huge portion of the population, was operating with those ethos. We'd be in a much better place right now.
Yeah.
Our economy would be better. Our food systems would be better. Our dependence on a fraudulent medical system would be almost gone. We would have food sovereignty, health sovereignty. We'd have emotional freedom. We wouldn't have the breakdown into fights and arguments. We'd be able to communicate properly. The whole war machine and military complexes of the world would shut down. It would be a completely different world. And the way that commerce is working right now is, all of it is like all parted together in some type of algorithm.
Yeah.
And we're heading towards a cliff with no brakes and no parachute. That's happening. And I think humanity is at a point right now where people are in so much pain, anger, and frustration that they don't care anymore. Now, I'm generalizing, and I know there's a big portion, there's also a portion of the population, especially with the mothers, that are fighting for their children.
Yeah.
And I honor that. And I'm there as their brother. And I'm all in on that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, these algorithms are out of control. And as someone that has a lot of insight and data and analytics on what videos go viral, for the most part, I'll just be honest, it's usually the negative videos that go viral. It's not someone like you giving amazing health advice. That'll get a couple 100,000 views. But the videos that get millions are usually someone calling someone out or like being controversial,
So what do we do about that? And I know you're in a tough position because
Yeah.
you're not competing in a vacuum. And I find that same issue too, because it's like, sometimes I'm putting a lot of thought and a lot of time and a lot of energy by putting really valuable posts out there, sharing parts of my heart, sharing parts of my soul, showing my triumphs, showing my failures, showing the pain I went through with losing my father, all of those things. And, it's the algorithm does not reward that.
Right.
I have there's a lot of reaction to what I'm putting out there. I have loyal people around me. There's a lot of, reciprocity to that. And I feel good about that. But I also see the fear mongers that are using really polarizing stuff, and they just hit you with that. And all of a sudden the algorithm explodes.
Yeah.
And I'm conflicted at times, and I'm
Same.
thinking, how do I crack that code where maybe I can get this to expand out more without selling my soul.
It's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tough. Right now, I'm just having on all sorts of perspectives and seeing what sticks. But at the same time, it could be damaging if I go down a darker path.
Yeah.
If I keep platforming certain people. So I'm in a tough spot too.
Yeah. Be wary. I know that, again, you're not competing in a vacuum, and you do need to expand out and keep growing. You've done an amazing job. But be wary of like how far you let things go.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we all have a responsibility here, I believe.
Yeah.
If we didn't have a responsibility, it'd be complete chaos.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that there's ways to elicit people to want to take a second, take 2 seconds to tune in, right? Because the attention
You only
seems
have
to
2
be,
seconds or they're scrolling. Yeah.
right? So it's like, do we have to hit them with danger out the gate? Like, does the alarm have to go off? I don't know.
I thought the way to bridge the gap would be to have debates.
Yeah.
And I've been moderating some, but even those can get out of control and people just clip farming.
Right.
And I just got a strike for a health debate I moderated. So I'm still trying to figure it out. But at the moment, these algorithms are just favoring controversy.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yep.
You know?
Well, let's get controversial. But let's get controversial with purpose.
Yeah, with
right?
purpose, right? To call out bad actors, call out bad we don't have to name drop companies because we might get in trouble, but just bad people in the space, you know?
Yep. I'm here for it.
Yeah. What have you seen that's really unsettling, I guess, in your space that you need to address?
Well, I think there's, let's talk about liposomes. There's a lot of companies, a lot of imitators, a lot of people that tried to copy what we did at Symbiotic.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because we've spent a lot of time, a lot of energy on intellectual property, on research and development, and blood, sweat, and tears on doing things the right way. And all of a sudden, you have groups out there that just basically mix, soy lecithin or sunflower lecithin with any raw material, and they call it a liposome, which is the furthest thing from the truth, with no thoughtfulness, no science, no research, no actual fundamental care for the end consumer. And I think they put a bad taste in people's mouths, especially mine.
Yeah.
And so I'm, working with my team to really elevate the educational part of this, because I don't want liposomes to just become trendy. I want them to be relevant to people's health. Mm-hmm. Liposomes were created in the 70s to deliver 100% bioavailability on specific drugs. That application came over into the space of nutraceuticals, and Symbiotica and our team, we worked really hard to make the most efficient and indestructible liposomes out there so they can actually pass barriers, get into the GI, and actually absorb into the bloodstream and do what they're supposed to do, which is carrying high nutrient payloads to the body tissues, to the cardiovascular system, to the brain, to the organs of the body. And so I'm working with my team on really bringing out that education, and we're going to do a much better job of that going into next year. Outside of that, again, I mentioned earlier, all these brands, most of them are marketing companies. Mm-hmm. They have no idea what they're doing. They'll go to a manufacturer, they'll tell the manufacturer, this is what I want. And they'll throw it into a capsule, they'll put it into a bag with some powder. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, they'll add some expedients in it. They'll put some, titanium dioxide in there, fillers, gums, all these different things, dyes, artificial flavors, all that kind of stuff. And then they'll go sell it and they'll make their margin. Mm-hmm. This stuff is moving. It's moving on Amazon. It's moving in stores. I go walk around in any health food store. I still see a lot of crap out there. Yeah. It's actually amazing. That this stuff is still there. And so I really want to bring awareness that what you put in your body, be very clear with what your intention is. Don't do it because you saw some influencer doing it or because your friend did it. Take 3 minutes and learn about it. I always ask people come to me and go, Chervin, what Symbiotica supplements should I be on? And I'm like, well, they're all like my children. I can't tell you where to go, but what I can tell you is, go learn about them first. Right. I never want to lend an idea to someone, even coming from me, without them practicing something called discernment. Discernment is the opposite of fear, right? It's making a decision not based on fear. It's making a decision based on education and information, and then you ultimately making a choice.
Exactly.
Which is critical. We need more discernment in every part of our life right now.
Yeah,
You're non-discerning citizens today.
Yeah,
Would you
100%.
agree?
Yeah, not even close. I'm very targeted with my approach with supplements. So I'll take a blood test. And for example, I had a vitamin D deficiency. So I'm taking that. I take your vitamin C when I have to fly because I don't want to get sick when I'm traveling.
Yep.
I take creatine every day because I lift and I use my brain as a host. I want to be in the best shape.
Great.
So anything I'm deficient in or I want to get better at, I'll just take that as a supplement.
We got to get you on our D3K2 CoQ10 combo.
Yeah, I need that for sure.
So like our D3 comes from a cross of algae and fungi. It's a very specific form of D3, and it breaks down into the body into the most absorbable form of that hormone. D3 is actually not a vitamin, it's a hormone. It's what's synthesized from sunlight from the cholesterol on our skin, turns into D3, then it activates thousands of genetic expressions in the body. At the corner of our immune system is hormone D3. Sunlight is part of the entire wave of the entire system. We're actually electrical before we're chemical. And so our D3 has that. It's actually coming from lichen. That's what it's called. We combine that with K2, and both versions of K2, which is the MK4 and MK7 version, they have two different activations. You don't want to take D3 without K2. K2 is actually what takes free-floating calcium from your blood and tissues where you don't want them and pulls them into your bones.
Wow.
Really critical part of human biology and human biochemistry. It's an enzymatic process. The combination of D3K2 creates that. What's the leading cause of death in the world? Atherosclerotic disease, calcification of the heart tissue, which is a combination of a pH problem. You're not getting calcium into the bones, not having K2 in your diet, and also stress and inflammation. Well, the combination of D3K2 solves a big part of that. You throw in magnesium into the mix, and now you have the perfect collaboration. And I don't know if you just saw, but we just released the most insane magnesium tricomplex in the world. I have a form of magnesium in there called magnesium glyceryl phosphate. It's bound to phosphate. We talked about phosphate earlier. Yeah. It's basically a salt. It's one of the most absorbable forms of magnesium. It crosses every barrier in the body.
Wow.
And I combine that with magnesium glycinate and magnesium taurate. Taurate is taurine, glycinate's glycine. These are very important amino acids that have different functions. Glycine lowers cortisol, lowers stress, easily digestible, gets all over the body. Taurate goes right to the cardiovascular tissue. And then you have the magnesium glyceryl phosphate, which gets into everywhere in the body.
Damn.
That combined with our D3K2 CoQ10, which is a coenzyme antioxidant for the heart, is a powerhouse.
Oof.
Have all your friends and family on this.
Yeah,
have your parents on this, everyone on that. Just those two alone cancels out so many issues. And it's probably one of the main things that people are missing today.
Yeah, I definitely need that one. I actually did a full body MRI at Pronuvo, and believe it or not, stress showed up on my MRI.
I believe it.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah. But where did they see that? They saw that in the occipital, or they saw that in the organ tissue? Do you know? How did they detect
I got to
that?
reread the report, but either way, it was visible.
Okay.
And they said I need to take magnesium, so
Yeah.
I need to get on that, man.
There's a quote I got 99 problems and magnesium fixed all of them.
Yeah, it might have been the brain one actually, because I did a brain scan too.
Okay.
So it could have been that. But shout out to Pronuvo, man.
Yeah, I actually might be working with them. I got a scan from them about 2 years ago. We're in conversations right now. I love what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, it's like, it's part of technology today. Not all technology is great. This technology is good. Let's take a look and see what's going on under the hood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I like that it's an MRI too. It's not
full body too.
Radioactive stuff. You're not dealing with radiation.
Yeah.
It's a magnetic resonance image.
My two key takeaways from interviewing Andrew, the founder, spine degeneration is advancing rapidly because of phones.
Yeah.
So that to me made me want to get way better posture. And I already have arthritis in my back.
Yep. Stenosis.
Yeah, I have that in my neck too.
Yeah.
And then the second one was increase in lung cancer in non-smokers.
Yep.
He said it's skyrocketing.
Skyrocketing.
Crazy, right?
I just saw that data report. It makes sense. It's hormesis. Like someone who's been smoking cigarettes for 30, 40 years, they've kind of built the biofilm and the antibodies and the ability to remove and deal with those toxins. smoking a pack of Marlboro Reds for 30 years, is that good for you? No, they're going towards a cliff.
Yeah.
But their body's been able to be resilient against it, right? Someone who's got secondhand, someone that's exposed to certain things, or it doesn't have certain nutrients in the body, could activate lung cancer.
Wow.
And we're subjected to so many toxins right now.
Yeah.
And especially with the LA fires and all that stuff. And
Jeez. So if you're too sheltered, it's almost a bad thing then. It's
100%.
like what happened during COVID, right?
Yeah, 100%.
When everyone started leaving, they got sick.
Perfect example. Yeah. Our body needs to be working out. It needs to be throwing punches. It's very, very simple philosophy. The more multi-dynamic the body systems are, the more that they're tested on a daily basis, minute by minute, the more we can adapt to those stressors.
Right.
If we're unadaptive, we have what are we going to do? It's like throwing someone into a UFC fight who hasn't been training or practicing or elevating their cardiovascular system. They'll get shut down in any way. They'll get shut down grappling. They'll get shut down on their feet. It's the same thing with our immune system.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you seen anyone still struggling with long COVID?
Yes. I get hundreds a week.
Wow. Still.
Yeah. Either, post-vaccine injured or long COVID. It's a real thing.
It's been years.
It's basically what's happened is they're having an internal fire in their entire immune system. Everything's on fire. It's chaos. The control system of the autonomic nervous system is deregulated. And so their body's not able to adapt to anything. And so the wires are being crossed. And that's a real problem. And so, you hear a lot of things like nicotine could be something that helps that pathway. So I've done a lot of research. I've been a tobacco grower for 20 years.
Really?
Me and my cousin. Yeah. I'm not advocating smoking tobacco, but I've living in the jungles and exploring those things. Tobacco is a very powerful compound. It's a cleanser. It's a protector. You grow it next to your fruit trees. It's just one of those things.
Wow.
Nicotine has a pathway. It's the nicotinic pathway. And the cholinergic pathway, which is where acetylcholine is formed in the brain and in the gut, is a very important pathway when it comes to immune modulation. And so long COVID, that pathway becomes disconfigured. And what nicotine does, if you do like a patch or something, 3 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 7, it helps activate that pathway so there's more flow, there's more energy, there's more direction. And you see the people are having some relief from that. And you throw in things like pine needle tea, nattokinase, which is a fermented natto, which is fermented soybeans, really eats up the fibrin in the body, which is a protein that causes clots and things like that. There are certain things that you can do that people should be doing right now, as well as being hydrated.
That's a big one. That came up on my report too. I was dehydrated.
Yeah, I think everyone's clinically dehydrated today.
I was shocked, honestly, because I do drink a lot, but I guess, living in the desert in Vegas, I'm more likely to be dehydrated.
For sure. I mean, if you're not getting, proper fruits in your diet and drinking salt water on a daily basis, even that is probably not enough.
Wow.
Like you might have to go even into, deeper depths of your hydration. I think there's so many, all these things we're reaching for all these things, but at the core, if, we're not doing the basics, we're not getting sunlight, we're not sleeping properly, we're not hydrated, we're constipated, things like that.
Yeah.
Everything just backs up literally.
For sure.
And you're just looking for, allopathic recipes. And so it's the same thing, like even holistic stuff like herbalism or even the nutrients that I'm talking about, that's all, if you think about it, it's kind of allopathic because you're looking to solve a foundational issue. You got to get the foundations there before you start going outside of it. That's like this whole thing with peptides, right? The peptide craze is out of control. And it's funny because I've been around peptides since I was like 19.
Wow.
I remember I was taking GHRP6 and CJC, NODAC, the drug affinity complex. I was taking ipamorelin, modified GRF. I was a big fan of peptides. This is when I was training a lot and recovering a lot. I was never a fan of exogenous stuff like regular growth hormone and stuff like that. I like things that produce growth hormone in my body through the pituitary axis. And that's what those compounds were doing, And right now, that world has come back 1,000-fold. And you have all these influencers online that are like regurgitating AI content around these peptides, and they're missing the boat on so many other things. Number one, where are they getting this stuff from, right? Number two, what is the foundational stuff you do before you start injecting yourself with peptides? But there, in true fairness, a lot of the peptides out there, some of them are could be valuable for a lot of people.
I wanted to get your opinion on two specifically. So I forgot to mention Clavicular, the kid I mentioned earlier. He's 19 years old and he's on TRT. He has self-admitted he's infertile. His testosterone level is 2,200. When you hear about TRT, I mean, it's, to me, I don't know about that one. What do you think?
I mean, ideally, you could go on TRT when you're like in your mid 60s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe even further if you do things right. How old is this guy?
He's 19.
19.
Yeah.
I mean, that's chaos, right? That's chaos for everything. That's chaos for him. I mean, I feel bad for him. And I also feel bad for anyone that follows that strategy.
Yeah, that's young.
That is insane. You're at 19, you're like, you should be in like peak testosterone ranges.
Yeah.
From free and active testosterone. My total testosterone right now is 970.
Wow, that's high.
I don't take any exogenous testosterone. I just make sure that the pillars of my life are there. I'm getting healthy fats. I'm getting choline in my diet. I'm eating raw egg yolks. I'm getting sunlight. I do squats. I'm active, things like that. I'm mineralized. I'm hydrated. I think there are some factors of genetics that play into testosterone production, but you don't need to be at 970 or 1,000. You could be happy and healthy at 600, 700, just depending on your endocrine system and your way of life. The peptide craze and the TRT craze and all these things, these are all allopathic stuff. It's searching for a pill, searching for an injection, searching for a solution when the foundation is rotting. And it reminds me of a veneer, right? This world has become a veneer.
Good analogy.
We're trying to put a cap over something, right? This is a veneer. I'm putting it over.
Looks good from the outside.
Looks good from the outside, but on the inside, it's rotting.
Yeah.
And when you put veneers over things, not only does that place become, there's no like aerobic or anaerobic activity because there's no oxygen and no water and no blood supply, it starts to decay. And decay becomes a cancer, and decay rots, and it starts to feed into everything else. Our world is a veneer. It's acting as a veneer right now. Again, social media is a veneer. Everyone will choose how to create an outer protective shell over getting down to the issues. And the issues really, we talk about all these health factors, but it's the common law of trauma. It's the social landscape. It's your inner wisdom. It's your inner voice. It's your purpose. It's your connection to God. It's your connection to family and friends. Those are the things that have to be congruent with the life that you want to live. If those places are empty, your life is a veneer. And when you're in that reality, you're not making the right choices because you're doing them out of pain and frustration. Right. And that's the whole thing with now like GLP-1s and all these things. Like we shouldn't have to mimic fasting and autophagy through injections. We should be at the core there. Now I understand that there are certain people that have just gone through so much shit in life and haven't been able to rectify those issues or come to terms with them. Do things like compassionate inquiry, which is a way of going to your inner child. These are emotional healing techniques. And so they have to potentially go on some of these aggressive drugs and really get to the root of why their metabolic system is completely out of whack. But when you're in pain, when you're in fear, you're going to have metabolic issues. When you have metabolic issues, you're going to have digestive issues. When you have digestive issues, you're going to have inflammation. When you have inflammation problems, your body's going to have a mitochondrial breakdown. When you have mitochondrial breakdown, you'll have no ATP. Mitochondria is what converts food, nutrients, light, energy, salts into adenosine triphosphate, which is the currency of energy throughout the body. It's a pretty simple process when you understand how the cycle of the body works. This is all broken down through the Krebs cycle, right? Or the, the folate system of how the body replicates cells and breaks down cells and either replenishes them or goes into apoptosis. When these things don't happen, your body goes into senescence, immunosenescence, which means senile cells. That means they're not responding to any more transcription or any more messages anymore.
Jeez, that's
when your
scary.
body goes into senile, you fundamentally break down.
Wow.
This is when rapid aging happens. This is when pathologies begin. Diabetes, cancers, heart disease, other weird stuff. And we're seeing more exotic stuff every single day. And as Brian Johnson will say, and other health advocates such as myself, the health span is now getting reduced. We're going into the disease spans sooner. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to put a fucking veneer over it. It's like, driving your favorite, craziest hypercar in the world, a Bugatti that's worth $30 million. You take it out of the dealership, right? And as soon as you're driving on PCH, you have 9 check engine lights go on. And then what would a normal person at that point who just spent $30 million on a car, they'd immediately pull over and have it towed to a facility so they can check it out. But we're not doing that. We're putting duct tape over those check engine lights and continuing to drive.
Facts.
Right? And that veneer is a destructive force that's happening in society right now. And the economy is suffering for it. And we're fighting unsenseless wars for it. We're really we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're trying to buy time, but we're losing the equity of time. It's a radical spiritual shift needs to happen now. And I'm here. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Such a good analogy. And it resonates with me deeply because what got me started on this health kick was my first MRI 2 years ago. I looked good. I was skinny, but I had so much visceral fat on the inside.
Wow.
It looked disgusting.
Wow.
He was comparing my whole chart to like a 40-year-old, and I looked way worse.
That's crazy.
And I was skinny, 6-pack.
Skinny visceral fat is the most dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? Because that means that your body is really suffering and then accumulating that visceral, I would say almost like unmetabolic fat, which is filled with cytokines and inflammatory cytokines around the organs, just to protect. Right. And it's around the liver, it's around the gallbladder, things like that.
Yeah, I had liver issues.
Yeah.
Luckily now, 2 years later, I've fixed that, but I still have on my blood work, I might have an autoimmune disease now because of that.
Well, we can reverse engineer all that. Autoimmune just means the body is not able to communicate properly. It's actually just a ridiculous catchphrase. All this stuff, Hashimoto's and celiacs and all these different things. No, we need to get the mitochondrial recharged again. We need to get to the electrical solution. The liver, I always say, like, where is someone to start? You start doing all the things like you're doing your breath work, you're hydrating, you're doing the salts, you're sleeping. You have a good life partner in your life. You're not in chaos fight all the time. Okay, you got the basics down, right? You're not bathing in EMF all day long, right? Those things are important, right? Let's focus on the liver. The liver seats at the house as the alchemist. It converts everything in the body from toxic to neutro energizing. The liver is what converts all the hormones. It converts T4 into T3. It's what pushes out toxins. It regulates the entire temperament of the entire body. I would say most people are dealing with some type of liver problem right now. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is an insulin issue, it's a metabolic problem, is running rampart right now, and it's like literally like a unstoppable force right now.
Is that from diet mainly?
It's from diet. It's from emotional problems. It's from light pollution. It's all of those things. We're now saying that how important light is. That's why when I came here, I was like, can we at least lower the burden of these LEDs?
So you think it's really that damaging, this light?
100%.
Wow.
Absolutely. That's why I'm wearing these glasses right now.
Wow.
Yeah, light pollution is real. It's not woo-woo. This is a mitochondrial breakdown. We're not designed to be having certain single spectrum forms of light. The energy guys thought it was a good idea to not use full spectrum lights because we're going to save a little bit of energy by just offering one spectrum. That one spectrum is robbing the circadian system, the biological clock, and it is tinkering with our hormones. It's sending us into chaos. Well, probably maybe even more important than the food that we eat. That's how serious this is.
I feel bad for news anchors like Stephen A. Smith is under these lights.
Of course, they're getting bombarded. They're getting rocked. And these people are flying around in planes all the time. I feel it. I mean, I have a whole strategy on how I do these things, and it's not about being in fear. It's about being advanced.
Yeah.
It's about an act of self-love. I understand human biology and optimization. I'm going to go take it a step further and really activate my body's ability to handle these things. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I stay away from them as much as possible. Now, I know that might be a luxury that some people can't afford. So what do? You got to get some glasses. You got to get certain things. And you got to make sure that you're getting touched by the sun on the rise every single day. And at nighttime, when the sun declination makes its way west towards Hawaii, we got to let the burden of light not affect us. We can't be exposing ourselves to blue light all night long, to our phones, to our TVs, to our tablets, all of those things, even traffic lights and all those things. They're chaotic.
Wow.
They don't allow certain productions of hormones happening, like the main one, melatonin. Melatonin, we now know, is a more critical antioxidant than glutathione.
Wow.
Than one of the most powerful tripeptides in the world that Symbiotica, of course, has combined with PQQ and CoQ10 in liposomal form, which I take 3 times a day, by the way.
That one changed me, man, because I have the MTHFR break, so taking glutathione was a game changer.
So 70% of the country has some variants of MTHFR gene mutation, and it just basically your body has a little bit of an exhaustion or a little bit of a problem of being able to go into the methylation cycle, right? Yeah. And so your detox pathways are a little bit harder to process. Your ability to cleanse cells are a little bit more difficult. So you need methylating things like glutathione, like our methyl B12 combo, right? Like our L-methylfolate combo, like sulforaphane. That's why I eat broccoli sprouts. You know, these things are sulfur related and they help you. Melatonin is critical, and it's critical for our bodies to endogenously produce it. It's not about taking an outside pill or an outside anything. And if you are not producing melatonin on the rise, because it happens on the rise, and it's released at night when the sunlight is fleeting, and you're looking at fire, you're looking at an incandescent bulb, that or red light therapy or anything like that, that's when melatonin is released. If you hijack that and you do that for a certain period of time, you're way beyond a healthy experience. And there's nothing you can do to circumvent that.
Wow.
And you're just running until you basically dry out electrically. And that's what they call the browning effect. And when you start oxidizing and browning, then all of a sudden you're basically in rapid age processing right at that point. And you can veneer all you want, but by the time you're in your 40s, you're in serious problem.
Yeah.
You have cognitive issues, chronic fatigue is now a syndrome. It's actually, they call it chronic CFS. What the hell? How did we create your exhaustion of your cells into a syndrome?
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
I can't believe
We've really, I always like to say, we've forgotten what we've forgotten.
Yeah.
We're at that level of illusion.
Well, that's nuts, man. I know you got a lot of new products launching. We'll link the site below. What else is next for you, man? Where can people find you and everything?
What's next is we're coming out with a liposomal NAD trimethylglycine trademarked Lutamax combo, which is the most beautifying cell activation, I would say, compound grouping ever. That comes out in the next couple of months. Our liposomal creatine is coming out in January. It's insane. Got so many epic events coming up. Going to be going all over the world pretty soon.
Nice.
So excited about what's going on. Me and Shahab are always talking about what we're doing. Sometimes we have to step back and be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We're helping a lot of people. I was at F1 this weekend, and at least 50 people, as I'm walking around, came up to me and goes, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
That's awesome.
And it never gets old for me. Is that kind of, that's part of my love language, is those types of affirmations. I don't need to hear anything other than thank you for showing up. And so I'm hyped on that.
That's
awesome. We're going next level. It's on.
Dude, thanks for your time, man. That was fun.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, check them out, guys. Check out Symbiotica. We'll link it below. Peace.
I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the show a lot with the algorithm. Thank you.